Hello and welcome to the North Shore Drive podcast for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I'm Chris Carter. He's Brian Batko, and this is your North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette covering the Steelers, getting you ready for the Steelers and Browns Sunday 1 p.m. showdown at Acrisure Stadium. The Steelers coming off of a bye. Lots of angles to break down in this game. But first, remind you, this podcast is presented by FanDuel, where you can get all the odds, ends, and lines. Each week we'll get you some odds on this game later in the show, but also thanks to our sponsors at Edgar, Snyder and Associates, who also do workers' compensation. If you've been hurt on the job, you need to know who decides when you're better, who decides when your treatment's over, and who decides when your benefits are over. The answer might surprise you. It's the insurance company's doctors. They won't be on your side, so get someone who will be on your side. That's Edgar, Snyder and Associates. They'll call them now at 1-800-94-EDGAR because they'll fight for the workers' compensation rights you deserve. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. Brian, there were some interesting moves made by the Browns this week, and we're going to get to more like matchup specific things on this game. But I want to take a look at just the Browns' approach to how they made some trades this week. They sent away Joe Flacco to the Bengals, a division rival, the first time these two teams have even made a trade since 1999. And at the same time, and then I think it was the same day, they sent away Greg Newsome, who was a really good cornerback for them, and got it to the Jaguars, getting back a cornerback. I actually forget that guy's name right now.
Mason Campbell. Yeah, I think it was the next night, actually. But, I
It was the
mean,
next night.
either way, 2 days in a row, the Browns traded away I would say a key player. I would still count Joe Flacco in the key player category, even though he was the backup.
I would too. I mean, he was your break glass in case of emergency. Hey, we really want to win this game, and the rookies aren't doing well. Joe, get us a first down, or get us in field goal range. And they threw that caution to the wind. And Brian, you and I were talking about this off camera, but like that's something the Steelers just wouldn't do if they unless their hand was forced. Like when they traded away Melvin Ingram, and granted that was a position where they had T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, and Highsmith came up, and so Melvin Ingram was on the bench. But like if the Steelers knew that they had they had Mason Rudolph, they wouldn't just trade him away just cause and to a divisional opponent just to get a 5th round pick instead of a 6th round pick. Because again, that's all they got for Flacco was just moving up around in next year's draft in late day 3.
And they actually lost draft capital in the Newsome for Campbell trade. Now, Newsome's on an expiring deal, and Campbell's someone who I think has a few more years left on his contract, and he's younger. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's just a microcosm of the entire Steelers-Browns rivalry over the years. You've got one team that's seemingly always playing for this year. And let us not forget all of the offseason debates about wouldn't it behoove the Steelers to go 4-13 or 3-14 and get a top 5 pick and start the rebuild with the quarterback of the future. But they always play for this year. People make fun of the non-losing season streak, but what it ultimately speaks to is they're always competitive, even if they haven't been able to elevate past the same old rung of good but not great, slightly above average, whatever you want to call it. Then you've got the Browns, who are always playing for next year. It's always about not always, but for the most part. Yes, there was the wild card Steelers loss to the Browns. Who could forget that at then Heinz Field? The only win for the Browns in Pittsburgh in basically light years. So that was kind of the last season that you remember the Browns being legitimately frisky. There's always preseason hype about them being a buzzworthy team, and then it always falls through for the most part, and they start the clock again looking toward next year. So that to me is the difference. Like, a lot of Steelers fans are probably going to say, I don't understand what the Browns are doing, but Browns fans are going to say, this is what we always do. Our GM, Andrew Berry, doesn't really care about the product on the field right now. He's thinking for 2026 and beyond. And what really ties these two ideas together too, Chris, is these are two teams who might be in the same QB market come April. Assuming this is Aaron Rodgers' last year, assuming Dillon Gabriel doesn't start lighting it up, I think these are going to be two teams that are odds-on favorites to draft a quarterback in the first round. And right now, one is in a lot better draft position than the other.
To say the least, the Browns, I mean, look like they're going to be able to be able to pick who they want because they're not starting off the year well. I don't think that they're going to be in a particular they're not going to be struggling to make picks this year early, because I don't think they're going to be any better. The only team that might challenge them actually are the Bengals, because I do think they could fall off a bit. And not to forget either, the Browns have 2 first-round picks. They have their first-round pick and the Jaguars' first-round pick for the Mason Graham Travis Hunter trade. So and the Jaguars look pretty good. Like, that's probably not going to be an early pick.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It is early. They're 4-1. They just beat the Chiefs. They're doing well for themselves. But I don't think the Jaguars will fall off into like bottom 5 category and get you 2 top 5 picks, which the Browns could get you at least 1 with their record. But still, to more of what we're talking about here, the Steelers, for all the talk of being all in this year, which, I mean, they made considerable moves to get better this year that they could. They do keep their eyes on the future in a different way. Like, like the Browns, they're sending away players they can use right now. But like the Steelers, they sent away George Pickens, as you and I have talked about, because it was untenable in Pittsburgh after the 4 years or 3 years of trying to make it work with him, and just the situation. He needed a fresh start.
No one's losing any sleep over that.
Exactly. And they got back a 3rd-round pick for him. So like that's something of value. But I just don't think you'd ever see the Steelers give away a player the way the Browns did with Flacco. I also got to say I'm perplexed. I know that Tyson Campbell is signed to a future contract that ties him to now the Browns through 2028, and maybe that's something there. I just always thought Greg Newsome was kind of an important part of their defense and what he did, not just schematically on the field, but also just energy wise. Like, I just always thought that guy was was important to who they were as an identity, because he was physical. I mean, him and George Pickens going at it last year.
I was going to say, Greg Newsome, he had run his course and fulfilled his destiny. Now that George Pickens is no longer in Pittsburgh,
that's what it was.
His sole existence was just to troll the Steelers and get trolled by GP and the Steelers. So maybe like Andrew Berry just looked at this matchup and he's like, you know what, man, this isn't the same without George versus Newsome. Let's just go ahead and ship him out of town, and maybe Tyson Campbell and DK Metcalf can spark up some beef or something.
Do you foresee a problem with the way the Steelers operate? If they do you think that they are on a legitimate trajectory to get back to being one of the better teams? They obviously got to hit at quarterback in the near future. But like, do you think that the model that they're putting together can lead to the track record there, maybe faster than what the Browns are trying to do?
Yeah, because I still like their drafts from recent years, and I know people are there's been a lot of hand-wringing about Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu, mainly due to health, Roman Wilson, of course. It's already starting with Caleb Johnson. But I still think they've brought in a lot of good players in the Omar Khan regime, and that's really where it begins, the homegrown guys that, hey, the other part of it, beyond evaluation, as we always say, you have to develop them too. Now, I think maybe there's been some snags there, but there have also been some hits. Nick Herbig, for sure, as a 4th rounder, he might end up, supplanting Alex Highsmith, who, let's give Kevin Colbert credit, he was a really good pick as a 3rd rounder in 2020. So there's still been some hits. At least for me, the jury is still out on guys like Jones, Fautanu, Roman Wilson. Yeah. I'm not writing them off just yet. I think Darnell Washington, he's starting to provide more value kind of year in and year out, week in and week out. So yeah, if they do figure out the quarterback position, which is a big if, and some of these guys in the pipeline are able to, take the baton and run with it from the likes of Cam Heyward and eventually TJ Watt and Jalen Ramsey, then yeah, I will think that this roster is, I guess, sustainable over time. I think Omar Khan is good at what he does, but I thought that about Andrew Berry too before some of the bizarre decision making by the Browns in recent years. And I just wonder too, Chris, like, is there more synergy between the front office and the coaching staff in Pittsburgh than there is in Cleveland? Because when you see stuff like drafting a 3rd round quarterback and then a 5th round quarterback, trading for Kenny Pickett, trading away Kenny Pickett, signing Joe Flacco, trading away Joe Flacco, like, it just makes you wonder, are they on the same page there, or are they operating sort of in a silo from each other? Whereas partly due to as much influence as I think Mike Tomlin has on talent acquisition, but just feels like the Steelers are generally more working in tandem together, even if Omar Khan has sort of a slightly different mission than Mike Tomlin does on a day-to-day basis.
No, I feel like there is that synergy with the Steelers. I mean, I think you certainly felt it for years with Colbert and Tomlin. They seem to be on the same page with what the Steelers wanted and needed. And now Omar Khan takes over, and he was, right under Kevin Colbert for all those years, so he saw how it worked. So to me, yeah, I think there is a synergy there, and I think that helps. And whether it's Mike Tomlin right now or Bill Cowher in the past, I think it helps to have your front office and head coach and coaching staff on the same alignment with what you're doing, and and kind of setting yourself up for actually developing things. But like the Browns, they continue to just musical chairs their quarterback room. I'm curious how this is going to go because Dillon Gabriel came out and he wasn't bad his first start, but he also was protected very much the way the Steelers protect their quarterbacks and not letting him throw the ball downfield. Made a lot of 1-yard passes and passes to the flat and just quick reads. And things like that. But as the season goes along and he gets to expand a little bit, how does he expand? And does that lead to more mistakes? And does it ever lead to Shedeur Sanders getting a shot there? Lots of questions there. Meanwhile, the Steelers, they're developing their guys. I think it'll be interesting to see next year if the Steelers go for a quarterback, how they plan to go about it and use that. But clearly, I do think that, like, to answer my own question, like, I think the Steelers, their trajectory looks a lot better than the Browns right now, simply because I think they're rebuilding things better right now. The Browns still have a really good defense, and I think
it's a good rookie class. We probably shouldn't,
that's true.
Let's not hand wave the contributions they've gotten already from the guys not named Gabriel or Sanders in Mason Graham, Carson Schwessinger, Quinshon Judkins look like he might already be the best running back in this division, honestly, outside of Derrick Henry. So, yeah, I mean, I know that they're optimistic about that rookie class, but again, it's always the Browns. It's always about next year, and it's always about finding a quarterback. And I still am mystified by the Dillon Gabriel choice, but maybe that's just a placeholder.
Well, we'll see that. Let's talk about Dillon Gabriel next here on the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Brian Batko, stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the North Shore Drive podcast for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Brian Batko. This show is also brought to you by Goldberg, Persky, and White. If you're diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer, call your local attorneys at Goldberg, Persky, and White. For over 40 years, their firm has represented thousands of lung cancer and mesothelioma victims. Call 1-800-COMPLEX or visit gpwlaw.com for a free consultation. That's Goldberg, Persky, and White. All right, Brian, let's talk about this game more in full now, because we talked about like the moves and everything. This is still the classic matchup of the Steelers pass rush versus the Browns pass rush. Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, who gets to control the game, I think that's still a big crux of it. But this Browns defense has come out strong to start the year. They're allowing they're not high in points per game. They're actually 21st in that, but they're giving up the second fewest total yards per game, fifth fewest passing yards, the fewest rushing yards per game, fewest rushing yards per carry, and the fewest yards per play. So yards efficiency wise, they're looking great. But in other metrics, they're not looking so great. For example, they have the worst red zone defense right now. They rank they rank actually below the Steelers on third down defense. I look at this and I think, like, man, when the Browns get to be physical and aggressive and they take away the run game, they're really good at that. But I wonder if there's a thing that the Steelers can tap into to try to get their own offense going against a defense that's been pretty strong to start.
Well, I think if the Browns do that, now with Greg Newsome not in the equation, Tyson Campbell's probably drinking from the proverbial fire hose right now, trying to figure out their schemes and new city, new teammates. I would try to attack him if he is indeed out there. If he's not, whoever the backup was a backup for a reason. So I'd try to go at him. I also think it's fascinating. Like, will Denzel Ward shadow DK Metcalf? I mean, he hasn't done that to this point in the season with any receivers, but you've got one team with a clear-cut number one corner. You've got the other team with a clear-cut number one receiver. I don't know if they'll go that route or not. If they don't, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of schematic help, safety over the top, try to take away DK Metcalf. But yeah, I think the Steelers are in a good spot here because they don't have to just ram their head into a wall if the Browns shut down the ground game. They do still have Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth sort of, I think, itching to break out. I said it earlier in the week. I think those guys are going to get going eventually. They've got Aaron Rodgers, who's really adept at getting the ball out quickly, pre-snap recognition, taking advantage of soft spots in the defense. And I'll also mention these two guys because I think we sometimes forget about them when it comes to the passing game. Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell are really good pass catchers, really good in space.
They are.
Getting yards after. So I think those are all a lot of reasonable answers that the Steelers can throw at the Browns rather than just the old, hey, let's just run it into an 8-man box anyway because we want to establish our identity and be physical. That to me could lead to a lot of 3-and-outs, and now all of a sudden this game gets tricky.
Right, and I think that's the thing. The Steelers they want to win. Brett, when I looked up the Steelers, like right now, like the Steelers are one of the worst running teams in football. They're 31st in yards. They're 30th in yards per attempt. They're not getting a whole lot of yards there. But where they're not great, Bob. But where they do succeed is when they have to run in short distances. When it's 3rd and short or 3rd to 1 and 3, they have the second best conversion rate. Now, some of that's also passing, but there's plenty of those that are also running the ball. And I look at that and I think, like, man, if the Steelers can do what they try to stop from happening on defense, right? If they can consistently get to 3rd and shorts in this game, that could be a way to try to wear down up this Browns defense, to try to say, hey, we're not depending on the big play. We're taking what's there, but you need Aaron Rodgers' pre-snap ability to be on point, one, with reading, and then also on point with his accuracy. Say, hey, we're going to get the ball. Like, okay, you guys are crowding the middle part of the field, pop pass, Roman Wilson, and he's got Darnell Washington and DK Metcalf as lead blockers now. And that's going to get us 5 or 6 yards, set up 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, where we can be, do whatever we want, and then still have a decent 3rd down and distance to go.
And the other thing too here is, if the Browns see Darnell Washington out there lining up, in line to try to, combat that 4-3 front and discount what he can do as a pass catcher, I think that's another area where the Steelers could exploit the Browns because you don't always see it in games from him, but I think it's in there. I think he's still capable, even though he's probably pushing 3 bills right now, but he can still move. We've still seen it at times this season. So that's another reason why I think this is a big week for him and a week that he's going to play a lot. As far as that short yardage rushing game, Chris, I think I've got the answer. I think I've got the eureka moment. The Steelers just have to build a time machine, go back and draft Cam Scatterboo instead of Caleb Johnson. I'm joking, but seriously, that guy, does he ever get stopped for a loss? Does he ever get stopped for a loss? Like,
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I'll be honest. I was not super high on him.
Same.
I would not have said draft him over Caleb Johnson. But I don't think I realized, I would have said he's kind of an overlapping piece with Jalen Warren when you look at their size and sort of the way they run. But I don't think I realized how much bigger he plays than his size. So, man, I know that is a topic right now that Steelers fans who are watching Philly Giants Thursday night have in mind, especially because, you watch that dude run and you're just like, this guy is, tailor-made to be a Steeler and all the blue-collar Pittsburgh football rhetoric that gets thrown out there. But again, I said in the first segment, I'm not burying Caleb Johnson just yet. We'll see if he gets on track eventually. But that's going to be one of those what if moments if Scatterboo continues to do this for any amount of time.
Well, let's get into the picks of this game. Right. Steelers Browns here. FanDuel currently has this matchup as the Steelers a 5.5 point favorite. The money line sits at Steelers minus 255, Browns plus 210. The over under is set at 38.5 points here. Brian, give us your X factor to the game and your final prediction.
That's not enough points. I don't think.
Agree.
To me, the X factor actually could be the Steelers passing game. And I know that there's a lot of issues with that right now. But again, I think that if the Browns are, stacking the box, daring them to throw, whether they get enough protection to get DK Metcalf out there and finally Uncle Rico it, as Arthur Smith was saying yesterday, which when he referenced that as far as, dialing up deep shots and knowing when to do it, like I'm thinking so does that mean Russell Wilson was Uncle Rico last year? Because I think we all kind of realized their offense became sort of one-dimensional through the air. It was either check it down or throw it deep. I think they get the intermediate passing game going a little bit more this week. And defensively, I don't know if you'd call this an X factor or just an obvious factor, but I think Dillon Gabriel is going to be in Hades against this pass rush and against this D-line. They already are one of the best fronts in the NFL at batting passes. Cam Heyward led all D linemen in that category last year. Keeanu Benton led all nose tackles in that category last year. TJ Watt, we all saw his interception against Carson Wentz in Dublin. I mean, just freakish things. Alex Highsmith is back in the mix. The Browns left tackle might be you, Chris Carter. So I think Dillon Gabriel is going to have a really, really rough game. Going to be tough for them to move the ball, sustain drives, and score points. I'll go Steelers 24, Browns 10.
I hear you there. I think that as important as getting to Dillon Gabriel is making sure that you can get to Dillon Gabriel, which means stuff the run, get your run fits correct. Make sure that Quinshon Judkins is not impacting this game. Keep him under 80 yards unless he's carrying the ball, 25 times. Yeah. And if they do that, it'll force those third and longs. When you get into third and longs, then Dillon Gabriel has to hold on to the ball. He has to look over those tall linemen and linebackers, and then you give your pass rush more time to get to work. I think this game plays to the Steelers' advantage because of that. I think the Browns' defense has an advantage over the Steelers' offensive line, but I think that the Steelers' defense has a better advantage because I think that the quarterback situation there puts you in a situation where Aaron Rodgers can see what you're doing pre-snap and say, bang, getting the ball up here, bang, getting the ball out there. I don't know if Dillon Gabriel can consistently do that. He did that a few times pretty well against the Vikings last week, but doing it consistently for an entire game against a defense as aggressive as the Steelers, I think that can lend itself to make more mistakes, but you got to put them in the position to make those mistakes and stuff the run. That's my key X factor for this game for the Steelers. I'm going with the Steelers winning 31-13.
Oh, even bigger blowout. Those results are rare.
I got a defensive touchdown.
Yeah, those results are rare for the Steelers over the years, but that wouldn't necessarily surprise me either. And I don't even know if the Browns are going to get 10 points, which I predicted for them, and you go 13. But plus we didn't even mention, Chris, like the external factors. Browns coming off the international trip. They just traded two vets. Like what is the mentality from the guys in that room, especially the longtime Browns like Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, it's Denzel Ward. I mean, I just really wonder about all of that. Oh, and the Steelers are coming off their bye week. Mike Tomlin's teams usually win coming off the bye week. They're well rested. They're getting healthier other than probably Jalen Ramsey and Calvin Austin. I don't think those two are going to play. I'd be shocked if Calvin Austin plays. I'd be mildly surprised if Jalen Ramsey plays, but I still think the Steelers have basically every edge imaginable in this one.
So they got to get it done. We'll be there to cover it when they try to get it done Sunday, 1 p.m. at Acrisure Stadium. You've been listening to or watching the North Shore Drive podcast from Chris Carter and Brian Batko. Thanks again for tuning in. Remember, you can get this on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all the daily content that comes from all of our sports writers here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. We'll see you in Acrisure Stadium after the Sunday game with our post-game analysis. Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.